we use our dark seasons as fuel to help others.
How did you see woundedness as that bridge to the service?
I grew up around a lot of silence, a lot of you cannot say this, you cannot say that for whatever reason that may be. But I do it to honor my parents, to honor my mother, and definitely to help people understand that where I have been, which were 47 years of silence, don't do what I did.
What are the unique healing needs you've noticed among veterans?
There's so many ex-military personnel that they cannot deal with the approach. They cannot deal with fighting for something that they earned, fighting for something that they didn't invite in, like mental disorders. And once that happens, there's no turning back from that.
My guest today is Blanca E. Rodriguez, founder, CEO of Wounded Healer. She's a bilingual advocate, speaker, podcaster, Amazon best-selling co-author, Toastmasters mentor, and vice president of public relations in both English and Spanish forums. Welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm your host, Ali Horiad. My goal in this program is to educate our audience about various global issues and how we can help. My guest today is Blanca E. Rodriguez, founder, CEO of Wounded Healer. For 2 decades, she's practiced massage therapy and holistic life coaching. She's added certified canine massage therapy 8 years ago. And led fitness instruction for older adults. She's a bilingual advocate, speaker, podcaster, Amazon best-selling co-author, Toastmasters mentor, and vice president of public relations in both English and Spanish forums. Whew, I can't believe I said all of that correctly. You've done a lot. Blanca volunteers with the Inner Truth Project, helping sexual violence survivors, the Pet Cottage, housing senior dogs, and the Humane Society of St. Lucie County, a no-kill shelter. She supports wounded veterans, people seeking healing, and vulnerable animals. Everything I love, too. Hello, Blanca, and welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues.
Oh, hey, Ali. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, it's a great honor for me to be here, definitely.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having you because everything you do is everything I want to do all the time. And I think everybody wants to do as well. So you're living all of our dreams. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go into what our dreams look like. I want to start with your journey. It spans healing bodies through massage and empowering aging adults through fitness, supporting veterans and adding animals into the question. You know, this is a scope that's enlarging because I notice with a lot of people who really come from a place of compassion and the passion for what they're doing, it starts with the traditional model of our education where we compartmentalize and get people to specialize in one specific area. And then the person just says, no, I can't do this if I'm not doing this. And I can't fix this issue if I'm not looking at a broader thing. And then it ends up with animals and plants and the whole planet. And then you find yourself in this, whole cosmic level of the situation. And I think that's kind of your growth pattern as well. So what I want to ask is, was there an insight moment that led you to this, or was there an internal wound that led to building Wounded Healer? Where did this come from to you? Where was this calling set? And how did you see woundedness as that bridge to the service?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. Thank you so much for asking. I was born in a Puerto Rican, very conservative family lifestyle. And I grew up around a lot of silence, a lot of you cannot say this, you cannot say that for whatever reason that may be. But at the same time, I grew up as well in an environment of helping others. My father was a very successful business owner in New York City. and he always helped others. He always helped the weakest link, for, I mean, so to speak. He always helped people in need. He will give a job to someone that didn't have what it took to get the job, but he still gave the chance and opportunity for others to do better in their lives. And that is something that I always saw, not only with my father, but with my mother as well. My mother grew up, well, she was born into extreme poverty many years ago, and she decided that the way that her life was back in that day, it wouldn't be the rest of her life. So she made a very, very important decision that when she will become a mother, when she will become a wife, her kids will never suffer the way she did. So definitely I have that rooting very instilled in me, because it's what I saw since I can remember. The fact that helping others really helps us, and it makes us better people, and not for any kind of gain or attention. It's just the way that my parents were. And at that time, many years ago, there was no social media, there was no nothing. I mean, like it is now,
Mm.
that a lot of people help others for attention or for numbers or whatever the case may be. That was never the essence of my what my parents were, and it's not the essence of who I am. If I help, if I volunteer, it's because I do it with love, conviction, and of course, with the biggest mission for me, which is helping others improve quality of life in the form of animals, of course, humans, and wounded healers. Well, we are people that we use our dark seasons as fuel to help others, because honestly, where I've been in this life, if I can help one person, two people, like this fantastic podcast that you have, if this is of help to someone, we do it with love. Our day is done because we have done something of value for someone. So definitely all of these things, the way I grew up, the dark seasons, of course, the tragic loss of my father, my mother's chronic mental illness that she went untreated for so long because there was no dialogue, there was no communication, there was too much demonizing of mental disorders, especially back in the 60s and 70s. That has been the fuel that really, really pushes me every day. And I do it to honor my parents, to honor my mother, and definitely to help people understand that where I have been, which were 47 years of silence, don't do what I did. Definitely. There are people there, there's support systems, there are podcasts like this one that can help someone out there to understand that, wow, this happened. So maybe I can open up a little bit and get the support and help that is so very much needed. So definitely that is my biggest rooting and my biggest inspiration for what I do.
That's beautiful, and it really ties into what I've been saying for a long time is you can educate people by building more universities. There's so much you can do with the economy and everything else, but to build culture and to build compassion, it starts with the upbringing. It starts with the home. It starts with the way we interact with each other. And so many times I
Yeah,
speak with amazing people like yourself doing all of these amazing things. And I say, how did it start? What happened? And it's statistically starting to show that there is this correlation between the way we raise our children to the way these children interact with the world in the future. So, for the audience, I can't say this enough that how we treat the younger generation doesn't even have to be your own kids. How we interact and treat the younger generation becomes a reflection of what we see when that generation comes into the power of decision making. Now,
absolutely.
working bilingually and across contexts, I mean, veterans and senior citizens and animals and survivors, all the people you kind of help. Um, I can't help but think you embody many different communities and different forms of structures with these communities. And uh, your bilingualism and multicultural identity essentially, and living in different places, How does this shape the way you lead and communicate and kind of mentor people to exactly what you said, create a better quality of life? And essentially, what do you use to do that? What has given you the best? You mentioned your dad, you mentioned your mom, you mentioned obviously, growing up in New York City for a while. So all of those things impact, right? Where did you gel all this together?
Well, definitely the way that I was brought up, and that was the rooting of everything. And of course, through life, we choose what benefits us, or we stay stagnant in whatever it is that we do. And I've been in both sides of the spectrum of of understanding that it's time to grow up, it's time to move on, it's time to get out of my comfort zone, it's time to face my own demons. It was just the time to do some good growing up, facing my fears, because we don't grow up if we are running away from fears. That I did for a very long time. Once I turned around and faced it all head on, then real change came. And basing myself on my own personal journey that has been many, many years in the making, I truly believe that it doesn't matter which culture we come from. It doesn't matter where we were brought up. It doesn't matter who was or who is our inner circle. We're all capable of change. We're all capable of progressing in life. We are capable of getting out of our comfort zones. We are all capable of doing things better, not only for ourselves, but it can reflect on those around us in a beautiful way. Just yesterday, it was my beloved sister's birthday, and I posted a very special message for her, because she is really my beloved sister. And it's very interesting because I have people coming and saying, "Oh, that is pretty neat that you honor your sibling for their birthday." I never experienced that with my siblings. I'm telling me even happy birthday. So that is something that, even though I didn't know that it will cause an impact on someone, it really did. And it doesn't matter which social stature we are at. Where do we come from? What is our background? Who our parents are, or if we even have parents that they were present. I lost my father at a very young age, and it was extremely traumatizing for me. Still, there is a support system. Still, there's people out there that we are here to help, no matter where you come from. If you're older, if you're younger, it doesn't matter. We all have these basic human needs that all of us humans carry with us. Okay, growth and contribution is that's the most important one in my book, and this is what we're doing right now with this basic human need: growth and contribution, sharing with others where we have been, so their lives can be a little bit easier, or open our minds a little bit more with more ease. And coming from a woman like me, that I am in the older generation, I just turned 60, it's wonderful and humbling and honoring that people come and ask questions, and they say, "Wow, your story is very, very compelling. What can I do? How do you do it?" And what I can say is this: how do I do it? By getting out of my comfort zone, facing my fears head on, understanding that the triggers will always be there, because I come from untreated childhood trauma for a very, very long time. And it doesn't matter if we're 16 or 60, we're all capable of change. And that's what I focus on most likely with all of my holistic life coaching clients, that ironically, they're not in the younger generation. They are in my generation, or even older than me, that they are ready for the change. And it doesn't matter where we come from or the age. So it's a beautiful thing. I'm very grateful to do that.
Now, taking that mentality and going into your fields, let's start with veterans. Your Wounded Healer program obviously supports those who have served. That's who we call veterans. What are the
Hmm.
unique healing needs you've noticed among veterans? And uh, tell me how your angle differentiates from wellness programs or the conventional therapy that the veteran associations and hospitals and places have for them, or lack of thereof. And before you start, I also want to point one thing. Um, for a long time, I moved to North America when I was 16 years old, and for a long time, I associated the military, the personnel, and everything in it with the actual military as a construct. It took a while of living in North America for me to understand the difference between the people who serve and the military as a power or as a governmental construct. So understanding that and understanding the difference in value and perception and reasoning behind why people enter with the concept of protecting and securing and fighting for the values they believe in, and all of those things is very different than what we construct as the military or the violence or the power to commit violence or any of those things. So the people you're helping, I want everybody to recognize that the people you and people like you help when it comes to veterans is not helping the institution create more wars. It's not helping the institution
Hmm.
create more violence. It's actually helping the people who are saving and helping and trying to go there with the imposition that what I'm doing is for democracy, it's for betterment, it's for a grander piece. And when they come back
Right.
and that institution drops them, because that is really what happens, especially in the US and Canada. The institution that used
Hmm.
them for that drops them. The services and the way institutionally we treat our veterans is nothing to be proud of. Absolutely, it's a shame. That is why this huge space has opened up for people like yourself to say, okay, if my institution and my government's not going to do it, I can't sit around and watch this atrocity happen. I have to do something about it. And you come in and you do what you can. You're doing your thing, another person's doing something else. I know somebody who's building prosthetics for them. I know somebody who's trying to help them in other ways. So the community is really coming together to respect and honor their service. So I just want to preface this before
Right.
we get into the conversation, because this isn't about the military, this isn't about war, this is about humans, and how we treat humans.
Exactly.
So again, the floor is yours. How do you do it?
So I have worked with quite a few people that are veterans for the military. My own father was in the military in the late 1940s. And one thing, and it started all the way back to those days, and one thing that he pointed out about his military experience was how ostracized he was because when he went to the military, he didn't speak any English. He was only Spanish speaking, and soldiers at that time were prohibited from speaking Spanish. So my father had no other choice but teach himself the English language, and that he did. And beautifully, he became fluent in speaking, reading, writing, and the whole shenanigans. And another fact that this has been for so many decades is that when the military, when they are done with the soldiers, of course they throw them away like it's garbage. And it's horrific. It's horrific. It's saddening. And that's why so many veterans, since for many, many decades, they end up homeless, going into addiction issues. I worked for almost 3 years at two addiction centers here in my area, and I can tell you that 65% of all of these recovering addicts, they were part of the military. Uh, my stepson was in the military. He got his 100% help, but it wasn't until 3 years later that he was struggling and fighting and fighting and fighting to get the benefits that he so very much deserved and earned, because he left half of his health in the military. I mean, he's only 35 years old and he's got sleep apnea because he was inhaling things in the military when he was in the military and he was deployed. And this is something that his life has been changed for the rest of his life. And receiving that kind of grief, there's so many ex-military personnel that they cannot deal with the approach. They cannot deal with fighting for something that they earned, fighting for something that they didn't invite in, like mental disorders. Okay, because there's so many military personnel that they come back from wherever they go to with mental illnesses. And once that happens, there's no turning back from that for the rest of their
Mm.
lives. And with the many conversations that I have had, especially with ex-military personnel, is that they are indoctrinated into, you don't show emotion, you don't show feelings, you keep on going. Crying is for whatever. I'm not going to say it here, but crying is for the P word, and all of these things that is just not the reality of who we are as human beings. And then on top of that, the veterans or whatever, giving them such hard time to receive the services that they very much deserve. It makes it a horrible journey for them. And with my stepson, specifically with him, that he let go of the military because I mean, physically he couldn't take it anymore, emotionally he couldn't take it anymore, and then go through 3 years of his life struggling to get all of these helps and benefits that he deserved in the first place for the 10 years that he was sacrificing his life for the military, definitely took a deep and profound toll on him. Definitely it takes a profound toll on all of these beautiful souls that they join the military because it's something that is bigger than themselves. And then when they get out of the military, it's reduced to rubble and they become big nothings. And this subculture, because it is a subculture of the military, they are all of a sudden switching into civilian life, back to civilian life. It takes a tremendous toll. It's traumatic for them. It causes, I mean, not only the PTSD from their military experience, but another PTSD on top of that. It's like, okay, here I am, back to civilian life, and I don't have a purpose. And being without a purpose is a very hard thing to live with. And my experience with these amazing human beings is that they are thankful for whatever help comes their way. They are thankful for anybody to come forward and say, hey, I am here for you. I am here to listen to what you need to say, because they were shut up, you obey, and you shut up and you
Mhm.
obey. If you're feeling anything, that's not our problem. Okay. You just shut up, obey, do, and then we'll dispose of you like garbage. And it's a horrible practice that has been around for way too long, for way too many decades upon decades. And it's something that it needs to change. And I am hopeful that change will really come from for the newer generations that so very much do need it, and and give honor to what it's really worth, like like the safety and the health of these people, that they do deserve it just like anybody else. That's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why I volunteer for canines, that they become service dogs for the military. And these service dogs, it costs a lot of money to train these dogs, but they're platforms that they give these dogs. They train the dog for you, they get the dog for you, and you need a service dog. this dog is for you. And I think that's a beautiful thing that gives me hope. And doing what I do gives me hope. And having colleagues that their calling is for these amazing humans, that they let go of their lifestyle to do this. It definitely is an honor for me to work with military personnel. It was an honor for me to massage thousands of people in addiction recovery centers, because they deserve it. They deserve that love. They deserve that attention. They deserve that compassion. They deserve that empathy. And it's something that unfortunately the military lacks of in a horrific way.
I agree with you, and that's why I opened with what I did, because I want people to understand the difference between a veteran and a person serving and the military as an institution. And I often, you brought up something, a very a word that I use often, and a concept that I really touch on often as maybe a model for the future. Purpose. When you look at another form of a very kind of structured lifestyle, not like the military, but similar in structure, professional sports in North America. You look at the NBA, for example, or the NFL. These are people, even when they have family lives, they have games on Christmas Day. They don't have Christmas. They have games on New Year's
Mhm.
Day. They can't have their New Year's Eve like everybody else does. Or it could be,
Right.
their child is born. They're on the field dedicating their touchdown to the child that was born 2 hours ago. They were never able to be there. So they have that form of structure in their lives as well. Now, the difference is, the leagues operate on a level where they infuse these players, because they get high salaries, and they have a lot of money coming in. They give them purpose. They say, okay,
Mhm.
with your money, what do you like to do? What is your passion? Maybe start a charity for yourself. Maybe have some investments going on. Oh, you like real estate? Okay, let's introduce you to somebody we trust and we know, who's a real estate broker, and maybe you guys can start doing some developments together. Or you're in film, let's introduce you to someone. Or you start getting accesses because of your celebrity status, and you really follow your passions, right?
Mhm.
For the veterans, when they come back, these are all people who had passions before they left to the military. They're not robots. These are
Right.
all, they had the same childhood as you and I did. They were our classmates. So some of them may have been artists, some
Right.
of them may have been musicians. And when you look at their lives in deployment, they're trying to connect with that purpose. So, the artist is still kind of playing their guitar on their, free time, or whatever it is, or writing their book on their free time. So these things
Mhm.
are happening.
Yeah.
If the institution comes and says, let's nurture that for a minimum amount of money, it's not even expensive. Let's nurture that purpose. So when you come back, there is a purpose, which ultimately feeds into the economy, which ultimately feeds into the taxes, which ultimately feeds into the military institution and the budget, anyways, to do that. But you are
Mhm.
absolutely right. It's a matter of just, you go in, you serve your purpose, not a purpose for you that functions within you, but you serve your purpose as that militant slave. And then you come out on the other side. The only thing they give you is, kind of like what happened after the North-South War. The slaves were freed. But okay, I'm free. What do I do now? I don't know. A lot of them died. A lot of them got sick. A lot of them had mental
Exactly.
issues, right? And then that continued 200 years into what we have today, in the discrepancies and the problems with minorities and special communities and stuff. And we think, oh, it's the culture. It's not the culture. It's the history that plays into
Right.
this, right? So taking that,
Right.
into
Mhm.
account is really, really important, to try to bring dialogue to the table, as opposed to this one-sided conversation that
Mhm.
you're not a slave today, so you shouldn't act this way. Well, no, this transitionary trauma kind of went from one mind into the other, like your opening statement, 47 years of silence. I know what that's like, because I have friends from certain minorities that, exactly like you said, don't talk, don't speak, don't do this. And if you have a brother or a sister
Right.
who's autistic, don't even tell people you have a brother or sister, because we're going to keep them at home. We're not going to tell anyone. We're not going to show this person to anyone, right? And so it becomes
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
traumatic experience that's even invested into the extended family, not just the immediate family, and the community and everything else. And they bear that pain together instead of just accepting and living and celebrating life in the way that it may be. So I fully am on board with everything you said there. And you spoke about canines, so I'm going to take you there. You work with animals. You work with senior
Yes.
dogs that have lost companions. You do the canine massage therapy, and you're part of the no-kill shelters. So, before I ask you the questions, I want to explain something. Um, Senior dogs generally have senior companions because not a lot of people go to shelters when they're teenagers or where they're in their early 20s and say, oh, I'm going to pick this 22-year-old dog who can barely walk. And so so generally, if you see a dog that's older than 13 or 14, it's generally going to be with somebody who's past their 50s or 60s or anything like that. And so they get into an age where death is more possible after your 70s or whatever. And so these dogs, they need a place to go because sometimes there isn't family to care for them because that senior didn't really have family like that. And sometimes the families don't because the dog is a burden because they didn't grow with that kind of passion. And sometimes the senior got the dog or the family got the senior the dog to be a companion for the senior who's alone in a sense. And now the senior's gone and the dog's left with nobody. So a lot of the times when these dogs are sent back to shelters or anywhere they're sent to, it's very difficult for them because they've lived this life with their partner for so long and outside of a animal kind of pack system and things like that. So they don't integrate really well. It's difficult, it's depressing. They need a home. And a lot of us don't recognize that. We don't recognize that these things happen and they're part of the norm and the lifestyle. And especially in a world where, half of the population has pets of some sort, these are things that should be more systemically viewed and addressed as opposed to, just trying to wing it as it happens in the community. And also, the canine massage therapy and the canine holistic approach, again, is a matter that's coming out because technology and because of the freedoms and because of the breakthrough, the censorship of power. Until about a decade or two ago, before the internet, before social media, before people were able to communicate comfortably and freely, we all followed big pharma when it came to animal feeding and nutrition and medication and everything else. Today, people like yourself and others come and say, no, 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 you don't want to feed your dog this kibble that has everything that's bad for it. And you don't want to feed it this other kibble that is supposed to make
Right.
that issue good, but then breaks down five other issues. You want to do this. And all of this therapy and technology and understanding other animals comes from a place of this freedom from the capitalism of the system, essentially, that again enslaves them as opposed to makes them part of a family. And finally, the no-kill shelters.
Hmm.
I remember when I was in Toronto, and in my older days when I was managing my fund and all, I used to have friends who were vets, and some of them had their own practices, some of them worked at bigger hospitals, and I used to leave money with them on a monthly basis to help animals when the funding wasn't there, because some of them would tell me, I felt so bad. This little girl came with her parents and the dog had just broken its leg. It was repairable, but it was $3,000 and they didn't have it and they had to put the dog down for no reason, really, right? But there's
Wow.
no law, so you can do that. And
Hmm.
the little 7-year-old
Right.
girl, she's bawling and crying and it's trauma, right? Because like you just put someone down for no reason. And so this became a habit to the point that you take your elderly dog or your sick dog to the hospital and they say, oh, there's nothing we can do, put it down. um,
Hmm.
9 out of 10 times you shouldn't be doing that. 9 out of 10 times you should be looking for alternatives, looking for help, looking for the natural ways that this dog would lead its life. We don't do this to ourselves. I mean, when you go to the doctor and they tell you a family member has cancer and you're with them, you don't say, okay, you know what, we had a good run, it was a good life, here's an injection, die. because it's technically
Right.
incurable. No, we, even if it's stage 4, we go with hope all the way to the deathbed and to the last breath, and then when that person dies, we even are become so shocked, like, oh my God, they died. How did they die? Why did they die? They shouldn't have died. And we're in complete disbelief, even though all the science was showing that. So
Hmm.
why aren't we treating the animals in the same love if they are indeed family, right? So what I want to ask you is, what do these animal healing missions teach you about compassion? Because this was what it brings to me, and also about the interdependence of our relationship with the planet, essentially, and the animals, even when they're not our pets, and the responsibilities we have as humans to other lives. So what is the
Hmm.
compassion? How do you feel the interdependence should be understood? And how do you think we systemically should change our responsibilities to become more accountable?
Definitely, definitely. That's a great question, and thank you so much for that. I grew up around animals all of my entire life, and the love that our pets give to us is unlike any other love that we can feel from any other human. It's a whole different ballgame, one from the other. The pet is the reflection of the owner, of the human companion, and these animals, I'm gonna talk specifically about dogs. Okay, I grew up around dogs, and the way dogs were treated back in the day when I was a little kid is a world away from what it is now. And but there's something that has been around for way too long, and it's animal cruelty and abuse. If you have an animal is not a toy. An animal is not like a plush teddy bear that you just like it for a little bit and throw it away. It's just not the way it is. And there has been a little bit of a big problem ever since the pandemic happened. People went home and everybody got an animal. Everybody. But then the world reopened. Everybody has to go back to work. What is going to happen with your beloved animal in your home? Are you going to leave it abandoned at home all day, which happens way too much? Or which measures are going to be taken? Or there's like a lot of people that they just stayed working from home, and it's okay. That's perfect because the quality of life of the animal won't be compromised. But on the other hand, there's all of these people that they got a puppy for their kid because the kid begged for the puppy. And what happens? The adult ends up taking care of the puppy, not the kid. And this happens way too much. And when life gets lifing, that you have the responsibility of this animal every single day of the animal's life, then it becomes a problem. Then the thing needs to go. Then I don't want to pick up the hair. I don't want to feed the animal. I am sick. I am tired. I'm hungover. Whatever the case may be. And that's when animal abuse and abandonment happens. This is what I say to every single person out there. Research the most important part of getting an animal, if you decide to get one, is to understand that life won't be the same again. Yes, it's an animal, but it's a family member. This is a living, feeling, loving being that is unconditional and there for you no matter what. Please return the favor to the animal. Okay, that's the first one. There's another one that is very important. Research the breed of the animal. For the love of God, do yourself a favor. Research the breed. Go to the internet. Go to a book. I have a book that is 450 different breeds of dogs, and it'll give you everything you need to know or not know about this animal, and then you make a decision if that animal it will be a good fit for your household. If you live in a studio apartment, how are you going to have a Saint Bernard in a studio apartment? That is a horrible thing to do. So choose which environment is good for the animal and of course for you. There is, and I'm going back to military personnel and veterans. Many veterans, they are at home and they live isolated lives, and this is when a service animal comes into play. But there's something very important to take under consideration. Is this veteran willing to take care of this dog just like the
Mm.
dog takes care of the veteran? That's another one. And it can become a burden. It can become a stress. It can become even a problem because you, for whatever reason it may be, maybe you don't have the energy to watch over this animal and clean after the animal and whatever it is that it happens. Okay, I've been an animal lover my whole life. We lost our beloved dog 3 years ago. I'm not getting a dog anytime soon because I work, because I'm out of the house all day. Would that be a fair thing for the animal to just I mean, for my own well-being, not well-being, for my own ego, I will
Entertainment.
just have the dog, yeah, for entertainment only? No, these are living, feeling animals with organs, with system, with feelings and emotions, and they do hurt because when we hurt, they hurt with us. When we laugh, they laugh with us. When we're happy, they're happy with us and for us. So yeah, I'm very, very passionate about this conversation because there is too much wrong going on when it comes to the treatment of animals, and not only dogs. I mean, I'm talking specifically about dogs because I've been a certified canine massage therapist for a long time. I did my practice, I did it in no-kill shelters, and I still volunteer for the no-kill shelter to this day. But it's very hard to see abandoned animals hurt, abuse. I mean, there was this pit bull that I massaged. The pit bull was blind because somebody decided to take the eyes of the pit bull out. Okay, how in the world can anybody do that to an animal? Well, you know what, I experienced it because I saw it, and that dog was amazing, and he received whatever love and attention and massage that I gave him. He received it like he knew me forever in a no-kill shelter where there's so much chaos going on. So yeah, when it comes to the treatment of animals, we really have a lot of improving to do. We really need to understand and be realistic. Is this going to be good for me and the animal? Or is this just for my entertainment, just like you said previously? If it's for entertainment, go to the dog park, look at the other dogs playing and having a good time, and come back home and don't have a dog. Okay, yeah, because it's life changing and it's a responsibility that's for the entire life of the animal. Oh, and it's expensive. It costs a lot of money to keep an animal with great quality of life. And you know what? They are worth it. So these are things to really, really keep in mind before deciding to have an animal, any kind of animal. That's for sure.
I agree with you, and I think you know again, something you said very early in this conversation today with social media and all those things. There's a lot of organizations, a lot of people who are doing, charity work, but really, it's an industry, it's a business. I often tell people, what sometimes I notice this, I see it. What difference does it make if you're for profit or non-profit when the purpose of your organization is to pay your mortgage and to pay your car lease and to pay your everything else essentially, and
Right.
you're looking at it as business. Whether I'm a manager here or I'm a manager at, I don't know, Best Buy or Walmart or something, it's the same income. Here I can grow a little better and I can make more money, and that's the reason you're in that and doing this. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of
Right.
capitalism going on in charity these days, which is awful. But there's also something else. There's also, like you said, this ego that drives the work. There are some really huge organizations, some of the biggest in the world actually, that are by name dedicated to animals, animal rights, animal welfare. But up to this day, none of them, and I challenge any of them to get involved, call me, any of them, any of the biggest global organizations for animal support, call me and tell me how many laws you changed for animal rights. Never mind the
That's
flash,
right.
never mind the
That's right. Oh
celebrities,
my God.
never mind all of that stuff, the concerts you have, the fun park days, and all of these events you throw, and let's throw paint on people's fur coats and stuff. Never mind all of this, marketing stunts. Tell me how many laws you changed, because I know if I go back and I can meet Martin Luther King and say, sir, how many laws did you change with your activism? He can count them. He can say, I did this, I did this, I did this, right? These are things that I did. But
Right.
when
Hmm.
we only showcase the animals, when we build a big conservation area and we say, this is what we're doing, well, that's great that you're helping 4 rhinos. But you know what? At the end of the day, the rhino population went extinct. Why? If your model works, they shouldn't have gone
Hmm.
extinct. Why
Hmm.
did they go extinct? Because your model doesn't work, because we need
Yeah.
systemic change. So I am all for a lot the revamp and the understanding that animals are humans as well, in a sense. And it's just like having a family member, which you should be
Hmm.
responsible about in a very serious legal manner, because if you did any of the things you
Yeah.
do to your dog, to your child, you would be in jail. So um,
That's right.
there has to be a
Hmm.
reciprocity of this, right? But there isn't. So I think the next course of
Hmm.
action that animal lovers have to take is come together, form this global even coalition, because it is a global thing. It's not a Texas thing or a New York thing, or it's a global thing.
That's right.
And really have this universal kind of United Nations approach to the rights of animals in a manner that they
Hmm.
get implemented legally, so that once that is done, the work that people like yourself do becomes scalable to progress, because then we can help the animals, then we
Hmm.
can teach people to be better, then we can do all of these things in a way that really affects the population and not the singularity. Right now, you give me that example of the pit bull. That's one example of the pit bull that was, after the harm that shouldn't have been done, that was done. At least they found some solace in you, or people like you who helped. For every one of those stories, there are
Hmm.
many other stories that never even got to care or shelter or anything, and got killed afterwards or died because they bled out, or they got eaten by another dog, or
That's right.
many things, so it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And I think the
Hmm.
solution is to focus
Yeah.
on the systemic. Now, I
Hmm.
want to take you on, speaking of systemic, that is a scalable solution. So, a question of scale. Healing world, the work you do, the healing work often happens one on one, like your massage, right? Therapy. And
Yeah.
generally, also,
Hmm.
it happens in small groups, right? As a person doing this for decades now, how do you envision expanding your specific model of helping veterans and animals, and the senior animals and the elderly people that you help with, staying in shape and being healthier so they have a better quality of life? Um, how do you envision a model that can do all of this, not on a local level that you can touch yourself physically, but on a scale that it doesn't have to be in Puerto Rico, in New York, in California, but it can even be in Rio de Janeiro, it can be in Cairo, it can be in Melbourne, Australia. How do we expand this? This is really
So,
what I'm interested in.
mhm. Yeah, and I believe that there's always an open door to expansion, and not only expansion for any kind of gain, because to be honest with you, when I do all of these podcasting guesting, and I do a lot, I do much more volunteer work than work for pay. Okay,
Mhm.
that is definitely my, even my husband says, it's like, why are you you kind of, yeah, you need to start charging. And it's like, yeah, I do charge, and it's okay, but I believe that my most profound work has been the one that I do out of the goodness and the love of my heart, because it's so meaningful in my life. And yes, I have work for pay, not a problem, but that is not like my main purpose. I want money, and then I'll give you my service. It's like, no, I'll give you my service. We'll figure it out. Not a problem. And I honestly think that is the rooting of all good things to come, because I have received myself this kind of support, this kind of help. And when I needed it the most, from people that they could have been charging me, but they said, no, I'm going to coach you on this. And it's for the better, and it will make you better. And I do that a lot because it's that meaningful to me. I have received it, so I'll give it as well. It's the least I can do, considering all the abundance and health and blessings that I have in my life. That is for sure. And how to reach a global community in Rio de Janeiro, in Cairo, in Morocco, Puerto Rico, wherever the case may be, is by this platform right here. Right here, right now. Go to YouTube, go to social media, mean well, say things of substance, say things that are of value to others, that mean something. Don't be giving me this crap that I am an influencer and I was modeling in the street and my life is beautiful, because that is not true. You got to be authentic with your words, and you got to understand that vulnerability can be really, really powerful, and vulnerability is needed, especially in these times where everybody wants to pretend to be perfect so badly and so badly that the suicide rates keep on going up and up and up and up with the younger generation. It's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, it makes my heart shake in a bad way, because I come from a family that there's been chronic untreated mental illnesses my entire natural life. I've been around this. The ones that will get the help, they will be in better positions, but it's not the cure for anything. It is a help. And how can we add on to going to the psychiatrist, the counselor, whatever the case may be? That is great. Go holistic. Find options. You can do meditation. You can do prayer. You can go outside and walk. I mean, there's so many things that can be of so much help to improve ourselves. And not only people with mental illnesses or mental disorders, all of us in general. We have something in this life that it has hurt us, that it has brought us down to the ground, that the wound has been open for so long. Like my case, my wounds were open for so long and so long and so long. I didn't know anything better until it was time for change. It was time to rearrange my life. It was time to repurpose where the heck my life was going, and do something that is bigger than myself, like right here, right now. How can we reach everybody on a global basis? I'm here for you. I am not here to point a finger. I'm not here to pretend that my life is perfect and fabulous, because that is not true. It's not real. The good, the bad, and the ugly happens. But what are we going to do when this bad and ugly moments happen? That is when we come into play. That is when you need a support system. That is when you don't do what I did of trying to do everything on my own, because it will never work out for the better. It doesn't. In this human experience, it doesn't. The more support we have by the right people, by the ones that are going to be there for you, by the ones that are going to be rooting for you, by the ones that are not going to be judging, they're not going to be pointing their fingers and saying, oh, you should do like I do. I don't want to hear that crap. How about shut up and say, I'm here for you. I'm listening. And that's all. So many of us, we just need someone to listen to. And that's it. And that's it. It's so simple. And sometimes we just complicate it so much. And definitely, there are so many good ways to reach to so many people that need some help, that they're shy, that they don't think they're worthy enough. I didn't think I was worth of being helped by no one for a very, very long time. And I truly believe that I was not worthy of being helped until I proved to myself I am worthy of being helped, supported, coached, mentored, and all of these things. But this is when, you know what, when we change our mindsets, our lives will change. And life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change and what we decide to do. And no matter where we come from. And I truly believe, and especially lots of men, I mean, we are in a society, and for so long that men were the pillars. And men don't have feelings, and men are not supposed to cry, and men are not supposed to feel and be emotional. Why are so many suicide happening with so many men? Is exactly that, the pressures of you are up here and you are made of stone, and that is not true. That is absolutely not true. And the more we let go of that facade, because also there's so many people in this life that we live in facades, and when you go to social media and you look at the car and you look at the pretty girl, and everybody wants to be someone else, they don't want to be themselves anymore because of the pressures of society, whatever the heck that means. That's not true. That's not real. And you know what? Vulnerability and being true to authenticity is so important to possess, to have, to embrace, to hug ourselves into in who we are naturally. And that is very, very well received by so many people. That is pretty amazing, and I'm very grateful to be able to do that. And there is something that I do not possess, is being fake. The heck with fake. I mean, I am here. I I live in silence for 47 years of my life, and not anymore. My husband says that as long as I have a brain and a voice, I will never run out of things to say and share. That
Mhm.
is for sure. Mhm. Yeah.
And you know what, that what you just said also fights a lot of the added stigmas that we shouldn't put on ourselves, because right now, um, in recent months and maybe years, the social issues nationally and internationally have risen to the surface, so to speak, and we are revisiting this start of division and the start of political polarization, and it's adding a lot of stigmas
Right.
again, because right now, you're in the US as a Latin American of any type. It's dangerous. You never know what's going to happen over the next 5 minutes.
Very.
So
Mhm.
there are issues that are happening that are surfacing now which weren't there 20 years ago. Now, these are issues that come in waves, because 20 years ago there were other issues, but we're adding stigma, like you said, to these issues by the impositions we place on social media and the lifestyles and all of these, influencer models and everything else. We're creating this added layer of issues for
Mhm.
ourselves that don't really exist. We already have a lot of fear, anxiety, trauma that we're living through just getting through the day. And now we have to add on to it, like you said,
Right.
the car, the purse, the jewelry, the this and the that, and if we don't have those, then we feel, less. And when you compound all of this, exactly what you said. At one point, you look at that bridge and you say, maybe it's worth jumping, because I can't see myself doing that, and that is the worst thought to have, because everybody is worth a lot more than that. And like you pointed out, we see a lot of young people who are doing really well, or were doing really well on social media, and then you hear, of their passing, whether it is, by their choice, or it's an overdose or anything like that. The question becomes,
Mhm.
you
Right.
reach this privilege, right? Why would you not be enjoying it? Why would you not be taking it on? Why would you not be experiencing the privilege of it? That you should be, which got you into this position in the first place. It was your art, your creativity, your manner of expression that attracted people. You should embrace that and try to flip it into something good and something hopeful and something purposeful, so that your life builds on that, as opposed to the negativity, and I really hope that we can hear what you're saying and change. The last question I have for you, Blanca, is a question I ask everybody who comes on the show, because I get really interesting answers on the spot. In short, imagine this. Imagine you're the most powerful person on earth, not in dominance or dictatorship, but in moral influence. What is the first action you take to ignite a global shift towards planetary harmony? What would you do?
What would I do? Definitely for and being a person of that kind of influence, which is a very powerful thing. I definitely will advocate for more compassion and more empathy towards ourselves. That's, I mean, starting with us humans, and for the treatment and compassion and empathy towards the treatments of any kind of animal in this planet, because it's not only limited to one breed or the dog or the cat. It's to every single treatment of any single animal in this world. Unfortunately, us humans, we have the thing of destroying, and I don't even know why we are. I mean, I think it's in our nature to destroy ourselves when we should be building and and redoing and rekindling and I mean, uh, rest and restore, rest it up. Take a break, breathe a little bit more. How powerful is our breath? If we could just take a little more time to breathe properly, there will be less stress, less anxiety, less people jumping. I mean, it will be a total transformation with something as simple as exercising kindness, compassion, and empathy for every single being that is in this beautiful planet, that it actually is the only place where we live. We're not going anywhere else anytime soon. And definitely exercising compassion and empathy, it will be a game changer for many, many centuries to come. It's very needed. Definitely.
That's a beautiful answer, and one that literally makes you a compassiviste, because that's what we're about. That's what we're doing. We're trying to bring compassion in action and bring it into the world. And because you're bilingual, you'll understand this very quickly. The E at the end of compassiviste makes us feminine, just like nature. So it makes everybody learn to express, release, and be the feminine within themselves, so that they can associate and they can
Absolutely.
be part of that universe like nature.
Mhm.
Bianca Rodriguez, thank you for joining us on Compassiviste
Thank you for having
Dialogues.
me.
Healing of
Thank
bodies,
you.
veterans, elder animals, and humans and communities is not just a service, but a spiritual responsibility, a duty that comes with an elevated state of compassion and activating that. That merging of inner restoration with outer action is exactly why you're here and why you're a natural compassivist and why the work that you do is so important. So, to our audience, I want you to subscribe to Compassiviste Dialogues, and I say this often, and this is not a script. It's because I can bring people like Blanca to you. It is the way that I can do this. It's being able to connect you with voices like hers and spaces like hers, and so you can now take this episode, go down and click on Wounded Healer, click on Blanca's LinkedIn, connect with Blanca, see where that takes you. Maybe there's something collaborative going on. Maybe there's some way you can benefit each other. Maybe there's some way you can interact. Maybe there's some way you can engage. This is the purpose of the show. It's not about, I want to be in the top 5 so I get a sponsorship. If I wanted money, I just go back to my fund. I don't need to do this. We do this over here
Right.
because of exactly why Blanca is doing it too. She can make a lot more money than coming here and advocating and fighting for the things that she does out of passion, out of compassion. But we
Mhm.
do this, we all do this because we believe that bringing the community together and bringing that mass power together for betterment and improvement and progress is going to work someday. So click on the links below
Mhm.
for Blanca, for Wounded Healer and Compassive East, and follow on social media, see what's going on, see the updates that everybody's posting, Blanca's Wounded Healer, so that you can stay connected, educated, and improving all the time. We're here to help improve the world together. I'm Ali Horia.